Hello and welcome back to Anatomy Physiology. This is day 77, first part here. So continuing with warm-up, so they'll be due on day 80. So you can see the warm-up questions on the board here on the screen. So you can pause it if you want. And then we'll move on. And there's our positive moment picture. A close-up of a bee, it looks like. And then again, back to the warm-up questions. And then moving past that. So a little bit of class business here. So we were trying to figure out the schedule for the remainder of the semester, looking at the different days that we've got. Because we kind of lost some days there, I had to shorten things up a little bit. So we'll do the digestive system. My plan at this point is to do the digestive system today and the next class day, which would be day 77 and 78. We'll do the urinary system on day 79, reproductive system on day 80, and that'll put us pretty close to the border where we're going to begin to review for the test. We may have one extra day in there, and I'm not sure yet whether I'm going to have a Unit 7 test or whether I'll just wrap that into part of the final, but we'll figure that out as we get closer. Homework, so keep working on the Unit 6 test if you've not done that so already. And then the Lab 25, the distance learning portion, and the supplemental portion are the two things we're working on that one. So that's kind of Lab 25 on there. Functional anatomy of the digestive system. So when we look at the digestive system, so what I've done is presented the material for this kind of in line with the lab. So what is the digestive system? Kind of you can see the image there, how it does what it's supposed to be doing, and then kind of why it does it, right? Because we need energy. That's kind of the big things. All the molecules that we use to build our body with. All right. So as before, we've got a crash course video that you can watch. Hank has got this set up into actually 3 different parts. So this is part 1 of the crash course videos. There's 2 more, but if you want to watch them, I encourage you to watch them, but it's not necessary at this point. But definitely kind of start with the first one because that gives you kind of a good overview of the stuff that's covered in today's notes there. All right. So yeah, there's a little note on the notes here. So the presented information, the same order that's in the lab manual, which is slightly different than it is in the textbook. So if you're looking at the textbook, that's going to be different. But we'll try to split into 2 days. So today's material is going to cover kind of the first part of the lab manual, general histological plan of the alimentary canal, organs of the alimentary canal, and accessory digestive organs. And this should allow you to complete questions 1 through 11 in the review question section. All right, so here's our objectives. So the objectives for today: describe the general histological structures of the wall of the alimentary canal, and we'll define what the alimentary canal is in a little bit. Identify on a model or appropriate diagram the organs that make up the alimentary canal and indicate the digestive role of each organ. Describe structural specialization of the small intestine that contributes to digestive role. Name and indicate the functions of each accessory digestive organ, and then name human, deciduous, and permanent teeth and describe the basic anatomy of a tooth. We'll look at the rest of the objectives on day 78. Things that we can look at today. So observing, again, the activities, observing histological structures. So there's a table in the lab manual as well as online resources. Identifying alimentary canal organs. There's a figure in the lab manual as well as online resources. The Villus model, I never had one of these in the classroom anyways, but you can look at online resources for that. And I think there's a figure in the lab manual. Types of teeth and internal tooth anatomy, those are both figures in the lab manual, and you can look online for those. And then the rest of the activities, 6 through 11, we'll look at it the next day. Some of them we just won't do all together. So again, just kind of a reminder, this is the first half of the information. The rest will be covered on day 78. All right, so what is the digestive system for? Like, what is it doing? So we actually kind of go through several steps here. We ingest material, we digest material, we absorb material, and then we eliminate things that we don't need. And all of this happens through this hollow tube that's known as the alimentary canal that passes through our body. And then there's several accessory organs that are associated with that kind of help out everything that's going on inside that alimentary canal. It's kind of interesting to note that food that's inside the alimentary canal is technically outside your body because it's in that space that is passing through the tube that is your body there. All right. So just kind of a quick note on some of the words. So ingestion is the taking in of food. It's when we're eating, we're bringing it into our mouth. Digestion is breaking food down, and that can be both chemical and mechanical. So we do this kind of in two different ways. Absorption is the movement of nutrients into the bloodstream, and ingestion and digestion is all about making things small enough that they can be absorbed. And then defecation is getting rid of the stuff that we can't absorbed through there. It's the indigestible waste there. And we actually need some indigestible waste. People talk about having fiber in their diet, and that's a big part of what that indigestible waste is. All right, so anatomy of the digestive system, there's two main groupings that we have: the alimentary canal itself, which is also known as a gastrointestinal canal or the GI tract. This is a continuous coiled hollow tube that passes completely through the body. Kind of runs through in order: mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, the large intestine, rectum, and anus. And these, again, is ingest, digest, absorb, and defecate or eliminate are the key things we're looking at. And then the accessory digestive organs that we have, you can see are the teeth, the tongue, salivary glands, pancreas, liver, and gallbladder, and they assist digestion in various different ways there. So here's an image looking at it. So again, we can kind of start at the top here. So we've got the mouth right there, oral cavity with its tongue, teeth, salivary glands. And there's several different salivary glands, but they all help produce saliva, which contains chemicals which actually help begin to break down the food. We do have the pharynx, so we got to mention that one, and then the esophagus going down this way. The esophagus passes right back behind the heart and lungs, right past the liver into the stomach. So the stomach is just an enlargement of this tube that goes through our body. And then from the stomach, it goes into the small intestine, which is this part right here. The small intestine is actually broken into three different regions: the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. And then the small intestine kind of winds all around through here, and then it connects over in this region, kind of in your lower right quadrant of your abdomen, with the large intestine. And then the large intestine goes up. This is the ascending colon, across the transverse colon, and then back down the descending colon. Then there's this last little bit called the sigmoid colon, which kind of is this S-shaped little bit here that kind of curves back around into the rectum, and then finally the anal canal and anus in the back there. All right. So focusing on the alimentary canal itself, kind of how is it organized? So the alimentary canal itself is composed of 4 layers. So this is that makes up the tube from the esophagus to the large intestine. In those 4 layers are the mucosa, the submucosa, the muscularis externa, and the serosa. So we'll look at them kind of in order here. So starting off with the mucosa, so we're kind of going from inside to out. So actually the cavity that is your intestine is known as the lumen. So that anywhere where we've got an opening is kind of a lumen. So the lumen of your intestine is there. And then just coming to the outside of that is this layer right here. You can see all these little squiggles on it. That's the mucosa. So this is the innermost layer. It has a moist membrane. Surface epithelium is mostly simple columnar epithelial. The esophagus is different, stratified squamous epithelium. So again, stratified squamous epithelium is generally designed for areas of relatively high abrasion. But these simple columnar cells, they are really kind of designed to allow nutrients to get absorbed and kind of move through there. There's only a small amount of connective tissue and a very scanty smooth muscle layer. There's not a lot of smooth muscle in there. And that's the mucosa. And going on to the next layer out, we have this, there's kind of this pink color here. That's the submucosa. And this is soft connective tissue with blood vessels, nerve endings, lymphoid tissue, lymphatic tissue. So again, this is, if you think of you're eating something and it's going through here, it's going to get absorbed, right? And then from there, it needs to get into the bloodstream. So this is where our bloodstream really kind of does its thing as part of our immune system to kind of check to make sure that anything that's coming into our tissue is not dangerous to us. So we really kind of check that there. And then this next slide is going to look at the muscularis and serosa. So the muscularis externa is a smooth muscle. So that's this layer right here, muscularis. And there's kind of 2 bands of it right there. with the muscle running kind of in different directions, going this way. So there's this inner circular layer and an outer longitudinal layer, and that allows the intestine to kind of squeeze in different fashions through a process called peristalsis. And we'll look at that more on the next day. And then the serosa is the outermost layer of the wall, and that contains fluid-producing cells that you can see kind of this visceral peritoneum and parietal peritoneum. So they kind of help ensure that the intestines, which are kind of inside the abdominal cavity, are protected and can move around without abrading too much in there. So anyways, kind of going back, so we've got the lumen, we've got the mucosa, we've got the submucosa, we've got the two layers of the muscularis, and then we've got the serosa on the outside. And here's just kind of another view of that same thing. So the lumen here, right, and then the mucosa, which is the surface right here, and then the submucosa, which is this layer right through there, and then the muscularis, which are those two layers there. And here you can see the serosa layer on the outside right there. And then you can see all this vascularization, right? So we've got arteries, we've got veins, and then in yellow we've got the lymphatic system. In green we've got the lymphatic system, and in yellow we have, those are probably nerves running through there. Yeah, so the nerves, mesenteric nerves there. So you can see kind of all these different things that are. We actually have quite a bit going on with our intestinal tract there. It's very complex. Right. And that gets us through the end of our first part. So go ahead and take a stretch break. We'll come back for part 2 in just a little bit. All right, thank you.